Let's play the greatest Moroccan game of all time, Ronda. If you've played Italy's national card game Scopa, then you'll recognize many similarities between Ronda and Scopa. Despite the similarities, Ronda is a very unique and clever game. Not to mention, it's the most popular game that I found in all of Morocco. So if you plan on going to North Africa or just want to learn a living legend of a card game, it's time to learn how to play Ronda. Let's go. Ronda is a fishing style game, meaning players want to pick up as many cards from the middle as they can. The objective of Ronda is to be the first player to earn 41 points. Points are earned by collecting more cards than your opponents and getting special points such as Rondas, Missas, and other bonuses. Ronda is played with a Moroccan style Spanish suited 40 card deck. You could also play with the Spanish national deck or Italian 40 card decks. If all you have is a standard French suited poker deck, just remove the 8s, 9s, and 10s. But do your best to get this deck, inshallah. If you want to know the history of this deck and how I got it, check this video out. If you'd like to see a playthrough of Ronda, check out this video. In Ronda, the cards are ranked from low to high, ace through king. The values are the ace is 1, 2 is 2, 3 is 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, jack is 8, horseman is 9, and king is 10. Ignore the higher numbers on the face cards. It's a vestige of an older deck, and those numbers do not apply in Ronda. Setup. Ronda can be played individually with 2 to 4 players. It can also be played with 2 teams of 2. Select a dealer and shuffle the cards. The player to the left of the dealer cuts the cards. The dealer then hands out 3 cards to each player counterclockwise, dealing to themselves last. After dealing the cards out to all of the players, the dealer will then place 4 face-up cards in the middle. This only happens on the dealer's opening deal. Unlike Scopa, there are a couple rules for which cards are allowed to go in this face-up pot of 4. The first rule is that no 2 cards can be the same value. So if you have, say, a pair of horses, you will have to take one away, shuffle it back in the deck, and place a new card in the middle. The same would go if there were 3 or 4 of a kind. There can be no matching cards. The second rule is that there cannot be any cards in a sequence or a run. So if you had, say, a 6 and a 7, that would be an ascending sequence. The dealer would leave the lowest card of the sequence and shuffle other cards of that sequence back into the deck, replacing them with a new card. Here we have an ace and a 2 as a sequence. I would leave the ace, take the 2 away. Now there are no cards which match or are in an ascending sequence, and we can begin play. These rules only apply to the dealer's initial placement of the 4 face-up cards. As the game progresses, these restrictions are lifted. Please note in a sequence, after the 7 comes the jack, then the horseman, and finally the king. The dealer will take the remaining card deck and place it to its right. These cards will be used to re-up the players as we go along. Gameplay. The player to the right of the dealer now begins. On their turn, they must play 1 and only 1 card from their hand. Again, they want to collect the most cards during each round. Normally, you wouldn't be able to see anybody's cards, but we'll play face up just for demonstration purposes. You can collect cards in the following ways. A card from your hand that matches the value of a single table card, such as this 3 and that 3 would be a match. This player can take that 3 and keep it in a face-down pile to count at the end of this match's round. If on their turn a player cannot pick up a card from the middle pot, they must leave a card in the pot, ending their turn. This player will put a 2 in. This player can now collect more cards by taking a sequence. And this is what sets Ronda apart. If you or your opponents leave sequences in the middle, for example, now we have a 1 and a 2 showing, this can now be picked up at once. This is done by playing the lowest card of that sequence, the ace. This player has an ace, so they can pick up the 1, and the next ascending card in that sequence, the 2. Let's just say the sequence was even greater. There was an ace, a 2, a 3, and a 4. If this player plays their ace on their turn, they can pick up the ace, the 2, the 3, and the 4, collecting all 4 cards plus the one they played. That's 5 cards earned. That's pretty good. Play goes around the table like this. And what about face cards? Don't be fooled by the numbers. These cards are valued at 8, 9, and 10, meaning that if you had a 7, this 7, jack, horse, and king could all be picked up in a sequence. Remember that the 10 card or jack is really more like an 8 because it comes after 7. The horseman is like a 9, and the crowned king is like a 10. If you're playing with poker style cards, the order after 7s would be jack, queen, king. If a player doesn't have a matching card in their hand, they must add one of their cards to the middle pot. And a good strategy is to put a higher card in the middle as long as it doesn't form a sequence. That leaves you with lower cards to try to get more ascending sequences because you need to pick them up with the low card. Play continues like this until each player has exhausted their hand. The dealer then hands out 3 more cards to all players counterclockwise. This continues until the dealer's deck is exhausted. After the final play, each player counts up their cards in their collection deck. If there are cards left in the middle at the end, whichever player made the last pickup gets all the remaining cards from the middle. Scoring. Now all players count their cards. You can play Ronda as a player versus player 2-player game, or a 4-player game with 2 teams of 2. Either way, the scoring is the same. If the team or individual has collected more than 20 cards, they get to score points for every card above 20. So if the team or individual has 29 cards, they've earned 9 points. If the team or individual has less than 20 cards for that round, they earn 0 points. You can also play with 3 players. In this case, any player who has more than 13 cards scores a point for each card above 13. So if you had 19 cards, you've earned 6 points. However, there are bonus points they could have gotten. More on that in a second. After we've tallied up all of our points, the player to the right of the previous dealer is now the new dealer. The game repeats like this until one player has 41 or more points. If you're just starting out and want to keep the game simple, go no further. But in Ronda, there are a few other ways to score points which add elements of fun and excitement, and I highly recommend including them in your gameplay. Ronda has a few bonus options, and I would recommend keeping a pad of paper around and marking down players' bonuses as they happen, rather than waiting to the end of a round when you're counting your cards. Bonus 1. If a player sweeps all the cards out of the pot, it's called a Missa. A Missa could look like this. This player puts down a 6. I have the low card in that sequence. I play my 5, I get the 5, 6, and 7. I've swept all the cards from the middle. That earns me a point for emptying the pot completely. Now the next player will have to put a card down in the middle. They can't make a play from the middle because there's nothing in the middle. Note, if a Missa is performed at the end of the whole round by the final player, it does not count as a bonus point because the round is over. Rondas and Tringas. If you're dealt 2 cards of the same value, you can call a Ronda. This earns you 1 bonus point right away. For example, here I have 2 7s. That's a Ronda. And I would say Ronda. You don't have to show the cards, just make sure to be honest. We'll find out if you're lying. However, if another player has a Ronda and they say Ronda, then we have to show our cards, and whoever has the highest Ronda wins that bonus. My opponent here would have won the Ronda because they have a pair of horses, which is a higher value than my pair of 7s. They'd get an instant bonus 1 point for the Ronda. If you're playing with more players, it is possible to have more than 2 Rondas, in which case the highest Ronda wins. And if 4 Rondas are called and you win, you get 2 points instead of 1. No one else gets a point, just the winner. If there's a tie in the Ronda, for example, we have 2 Rondas here, each are a pair of 5s, no one earns a point, it's a wash. If you should be so lucky to have been dealt a 3 of a kind, such as 3 2s, you've just earned a Tringa. Call it out, you get 5 bonus points right away. On the rare occasion that more than one player calls out a Tringa, it's the player with the highest rank 3 of a kind that wins the 5 points. There's one more way to earn bonus points in Ronda, piling on, known as Derba. If a player cannot make a pickup and puts down a card, and the next player has the same valued card, they say 1, or Derba, and can immediately pick it up and earn 1 point. If this player can't make a pickup and has to put down their 4, this player has a 4, they say Derba. They show their 4 and put both cards in their collection deck. This piling on can be compounded when playing with more players. For instance, if this player had played their 4 and this player says Derba 1, well, if they played their 4s and I have a 4, I can say 5 and take both cards. I earn 5 bonus points for taking the second Derba. It might be unlikely, but it's possible that the 4th player also has the same card. They throw the final 4 on top and say 10, collecting 10 points. The only player who gets the bonuses is the one who makes the final Derba. Remember, Derbas only work if the previous player puts down a card that the next player has. For example, if there was a 4 card in the middle and this player used their 4 to pick it up, this player couldn't pile on and say Derba because that 4 card is already picking up a card. It's not out in the open for somebody to take. Add together any bonus points. Play until one player or team has 41 or more points. They're the winner of the game. Congratulations. And just as a reminder, if you still have questions, I have a full playthrough of 1 round of Ronda found here. Final thoughts. Ronda is an amazing game and I just love it. The similarities to Spanish and Italian games are very apparent, but the many simple twists and turns of fortune in this game make it one of a kind. I highly recommend learning and playing Ronda. Did I get something wrong, or do you play it differently, or just want to say hi? Please drop a note in the comments below and I'll do my best to keep the knowledge alive. I hope this was helpful and thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. You are great. See you next time on Playing Games.